Welcome back to the Random Rod Shop, folks. This is going to be part 2 of our international bed shortening video. Today, going to do our best to get the front of this bed put together, get it all ground down, welded up, and hopefully hook it onto the, pick it up with a tractor and try to set it on that Tahoe. I don't know if we're going to get that far. We're going to do our best. Let me get repositioned here. First thing we're going to have to do is to prep that front panel. If you remember watching last time, I cut the front of this bed off, so I've still got to prep. Whoops. Can you see that? Let's get it up here. I still got to prep this front panel and hopefully get it ready to weld in here. And I've got some more welding to do up here. So I'm going to shut you off. I'm going to try to get my act together and get everything set up, and then I'll get back with you. Okay, I thought I'd give you a quick update. I got the front of the bed on. Really, other than a lot of grinding, it wasn't a problem. You noticed that I decided to put bolts in the thing. Don't know that that's good or bad. Just I decided to bolt it on. Don't have any other explanation than that. So before we put the bed on, I want to show you the Bear International frame, and we'll walk up to the Tahoe frame, and I'll kind of walk you through what I did to put the bed mounts on. The actual bed mounts themselves, they're pretty simple. They're not much to weld on, but I got to tell you, I've spent a lot of time actually measuring. So we'll see how that works out when I set this bed down on there, whether the bed mounts are going to line up to the holes in the bed. I hope so. So I'm gonna shut you off for a minute. We're gonna walk out to the International frame, and I'm gonna kind of show you what that thing looks like. Then we'll come back and we'll look at the Tahoe frame. So here's the International frame. If we look at it, it's pretty straight front to back. Actually, it's really straight front to back. Really, the only issue is the kick up, and we talked about that in the first video in terms of doing frame swaps and how big the kick up is. This one's not too bad. It's 6 3/4 inches. That's the height from the low part of the frame where the cab sets and the kick up back here. It's actually taller than I had expected, and it worked out pretty well trying to mount it on the Tahoe. The biggest challenge, not so much on the International frame, but on the Tahoe frame, was actually measuring where the bed mounts were, right? So on the International frame, there was bed mount here. There's a bed mount here. There's a bed mount here. And the final one was back here. Pretty straightforward to measure. Like I said, it's a pretty simple frame. Once I got all those measured out, I crossed them. I crossed the tape measure to make sure that that I'd measured correctly. Put that on paper, and then we started looking at the Tahoe. So I'm going to take you up to the Tahoe, and we're going to kind of look at that. Okay, so we're at the Tahoe frame. The Tahoe frame has a lot more curves. If we look at the back to front, you can see it comes back, it curves in, and then it comes out. We look at it from the side, it has a kick up, it comes up, and it actually goes down back here. So the high spot of the frame is right where that spring perch is. So needless to say, it took me a while to convince myself that I had these bed mounts in the right location to mount that bed. The mounts themselves, they were not complicated, but to help myself set it up, I had to use a lot of levels, squares. You can see this piece of oak right here. I've got holes drilled in it. The spacing on these holes is the same as the International bed, so I bolted that oak board down to the brackets that I made, and then to one of the One of the big concerns when you're putting brackets on that aren't connected together is getting them parallel to each other. So in this case, I actually clamped a level to both or straight edge, whatever you happen to have, piece angle iron will work. But in my case, I clamped a level across the two brackets. So with the level clamped to the brackets this way, the piece of oak bolted down across the top, I was able to keep the two brackets in the same plane. On the back, and I gotta admit, I didn't expect this, but if I did my measurements right, this is actually all I needed to add to mount the back bed mount. So if you look at it, here's the end of the Tahoe frame. Let me see if I can get this squared around here. That hole is pretty much in line with the end of the Tahoe frame, but there's no metal there. So if the measurements are close, all I needed was to add 1/4 inch to the top of the frame, and that should set the bed where it's supposed to set. In terms of mounting these, I did the same thing. I put a level across the, or actually I put a board across the top. Here it is. So I put a board across the top that had the holes drilled in the right spot relative to the holes in the bed. And then I put a straight edge across the front to make sure that they were, again, in the same plane. 4 brackets. I'm kind of embarrassed to say this, but I probably got 10 hours in getting those 4 brackets mounted on this frame. It was amazing how complicated that was to get the measurements. Basically, I'm doing this all by myself, so I couldn't convince Fred or Ralph, the 2 puppies, to hold the end of the tape, so I was continually fighting, trying to hold the tape, trying to get the cross measurements. In the end, hopefully we got them. The piece that I have to fix right now, or that I have to address right now, is, let me get it down here. You know, I said that where the spring pocket was is the highest point on the frame. Well, as it turns out, I believe that with that cab mount situated there, or sorry, that bed mount situated there, and that bed mount situated there, the only thing that's going to hit the bed is the frame rail that's between about that chalk mark and about that chalk mark. So I'm going to have to clearance the bed. So what I'm going to do, or my plan anyway, is I'm going to cut the bed starting about right here, in, up, and back. So I'm going to cut a square hole out of the bed around that fender well, and hopefully that bed will set down on there. Now, some of you have probably noticed that that shock mount is probably going to cause me a problem. All right, you see that shock mount stands up above the frame? And I agree with you. I think it will too. My plan is, if it actually hits, I'm going to just cut it off and we'll address this shock mount later. Not worried about it right now. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to find a couple of 2x4s. Actually, I'm going to find 4 2x4s. 2 to go back here, and 2 to go on the frame mounts up here. And that should hold the bed up high enough that it will clear this problem child right here. So once the bed's sitting on there, I'm going to get under it and I'm going to scribe on the bottom side of the bed what I need to cut out so that I will clear this. I can make a guess, but it's just much easier to set the bed on there, crawl under it, have a look and see what's going to interfere. Then we'll get up on top of the bed, or we'll get in the bed, get our little death wheel of death, and we'll cut that square section out. And hopefully, the end of this video, we're going to set this bed down on this thing. Let me go find some 2x4s and get those cut, get them on there. I'm going to put the camera on the tripod, and I'm going to go get the bed, hook it up to the tractor, and hopefully drive it in here and set it down on this frame. I'll get back to you. Well, let's see if we can figure out if this is good or bad. My gap up there don't look too bad. I think the trick is going to be whether the mounts I put on actually are in the right location. Let's have a look at the rear wheel. Wow. Well, I'm pretty happy with that. That looks pretty centered. So if I got the holes in the mounts in the right place, this actually could work out really well. Like a kid in a candy store, folks. Pretty damn happy about this. All right, let me see if I can mark out. Let me see if I can mark out underneath where I got to cut out for those spring pockets, because I'm kind of really excited about getting this bed set down on those mounts. I really hope they fit. I'm really liking the looks of this truck. Okay, I'm gonna crawl under it. It ain't gonna do any good to put a camera. It's gonna be dark, and I'm probably gonna have a hard time putting the camera where it needs to go. And I don't wanna get the camera messed up. So let me get under it. I'll mark it out, and I've got to mark it on tops because I've got to cut it on top. So once I get it marked out on, or when I start marking it out on top, then I'll turn you back on, and we can see if we can get this cut out so we can get this bed, dropped that 3 inches it needs to go to, hopefully set where it needs to be. Damn, I'm excited. Okay, I'll get back with you. Okay guys, I'm back. I've got it marked out with the blue tape. Hopefully that is going to allow the bed to set down over those spring pockets, and we can see if I put the mounts in the right place. So I'm going to put you on fast motion here, and I'm going to see if I can go ahead and cut those holes out, then I'll get back to you. Well, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. So let me find some jacks so I can lift this bed up and get my 2x4s out from under it. And we're going to lower this thing down and we're going to see if it fits. I hope so, guys. Well, folks, the bolts are in the front of the bed mounts. It looks like I got the back bed mounts a little too far toward the cab, so I'm going to have to move the back bed mounts back about a ½ inch. It looks like the body lines are close. It looks like I still got to do some more clearancing because the bed floor is still hitting the frame right here on both sides, and there's a bed support that runs across right here that hangs down far enough that it's hitting the frame rail right here. So I'm going to have to trim the bed support that goes right there. But other than those two things, this bed fits pretty well. The gap on the front looks good. The body lines are close. I still got some adjustments to do on the cab mounts. You know, I used those old cab mounts that I had laying around. I don't know if they were about the same. Plus, quite honestly, I could be 1/8 of an inch out, up or down on the cab brackets that I welded on. You know, that's just the nature of the beast on these things. But it's close enough that I think I can adjust it all out. Well, folks, I think that's all we're going to get done. I need to get this video edited and I need to get it posted. I think on the next video, I'm going to go ahead and see if I can trim out the sections that are still making contact. I'm going to move these rear cab mounts so that I can get the bed bolted down solidly, and I'm going to work on the body lines to make sure that the body line from the end of the bed all the way to the front fender is in the same plane. So there'll be some shimming on the cab and the bed, and no big deal. It's close enough now that I'm just excited that it all fit together. I want to thank you for watching. Hit the like, please subscribe, make a comment, and I'll see you next time when hopefully we're getting closer to doing the fun stuff in terms of putting the brakes and steering and getting this thing driving. Thanks a lot.